stayed even remotely within striking distance the whole game. Absolutely took over the fourth quarter, and he did everything we asked.
He was dominating LeBron in the fourth quarter.
And Anthony Davis, both of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was going by Anthony Davis, who I voted third on my Defensive Player of the Year ballot earlier today, and first team all defense. He was going by him like he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like,
and he was
amazing.
He was in attack mode all night. He was, and not just with the ball in his hands, 11 rebounds. I mean, he was, everything we asked him to be: dominate, take over games, be aggressive, impact the games, and even when you don't have the ball in your hands. He did all of that stuff until 3 minutes and change left, right after he attacked the basket to get to 40 points, and then gave that grimace and looked at the bench and said, I got to go.
Second he landed, you knew he was leaving the game. He immediately stopped. He immediately put his head down. He immediately grimaced. It sucked. And I was on delay. I was catching up because I was a little delayed and couldn't watch live from the beginning. I was like, holy cow, this is incredible. This guy is destroying. I didn't know what the result of the game was going to be, but I was like, man, this is like, I was getting excited watching. I was like you said, this was everything we've talked about wanting to see from this guy on the biggest stage, playing against LeBron, the same team that dominated them Sunday.
The crowd was going crazy.
Crowd's going crazy. And
Jose
then it just all went away.
Was making all these tremendous plays. It was like, exactly what they thought this team could be. Trey Murphy was raining in threes. And they were going to win the game. Right?
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. It was a tie game. They might have won the game.
LeBron was 6 of 20 in this game. AD was 6 of 16. LeBron was looking old in this game.
He definitely, what was he, like 1 of 8 in the fourth quarter or something like that?
He looked very tired. And look, he took on the assignment of guarding Zion Williamson the whole game for a second straight game, and he looked like he was taking a price for doing it.
Well, he also took a charge on Zion, and as big and strong as LeBron is, like, dude, well, I think 1 was on Zion.
Okay.
Anyways, even if you're 6'9", 270 or whatever LeBron is, taking a charge on Zion, he felt that.
Sure did.
He felt it on impact, and he felt it on the fall. And Zion was so by far the best player on the floor, like it was not even funny. And it's like the story of his career. So much to get excited about. Then he's got to leave the floor.
It was just a perfect microcosm of his career, which sucks because it looked like it was the moment he finally had arrived for 45 minutes. And then it all came crashing down. And I mean,
aren't that kind. And we all know Zion's history with Andy. So,
well, he's had hamstring injuries before, and it pretty clearly looked like he knew exactly what he did. Because he immediately pointed to it, as Bontemps said, called to leave the game, and then immediately went to the locker room and was furious because he knew exactly what had happened. He was whatever it was a familiar feeling. And I think before he had his issues with his right leg, the knee injury and the hamstring injury, and I think he had a quad or a calf injury. I think those are on his right leg. This is on his left leg. So,
I mean, he really is, and he obviously had to play his way and diet his way into decent shape this year. The difference,
he looked great. He looked great.
Between him now and him at the in-season tournament is striking.
Night and day.
Yep. But he is just such a freak of physics that staying healthy, I don't know, man. Like, bodies that big, we've never seen a body that big and that wide move with that sort of explosiveness. And unfortunately, I think it's just from a scientific standpoint, and I think I probably got a C or a D in physics at one point, so I'm certainly qualified to talk about this. It just doesn't seem to work.
Alvarado, he only came back
Jose Alvarado was playing great.
Well, I know, but he also shouldn't have been out there anyway. The second he came out there, the game immediately turned the other way. I mean, he was he was really bad. And look, those are their two highest paid players. Those guys are making a combined $70 million, and they were awful. And like,
Yeah.
if you're, if Zion can't play on Friday, I think the Kings are going to win. And if the Kings don't win, it's those two guys are going to have to, or if the Pelicans are going to win, those two guys have to be way better if Zion can't play. Because this team already struggles to score sometimes because they don't have a lot of guys who are going to be explosive from the perimeter. Brandon Ingram is more of a mid-range tough shot guy than a guy who's going to light it up from three. So like CJ's got to have a good shooting game. Trey Murphy's got to get up a bunch of threes. Like they're going to have to hit shots because, I mean, again, like you said, McMahon, the only reason they were in this game was because Zion was dragging them along. And then they had this lineup out there of guys who were just being ferocious on defense and making life difficult on the Lakers on the other end.
Yeah,
So
and obviously Ingram's not right. Whatever happens Friday night, I do think there's clear questions about. It's always been not a great fit, and they've kind of tried to make the most of it. At some point, I think we're gonna have to, or the Pelicans are gonna have to figure out: do you want to continue kind of making the best of a weird fit, or do you want to try to find a better fit?
Well, it's going to come this summer, which we don't need to get too far ahead, but he's got 1 year left on his deal. So this is the time to have that discussion.
yeah, I mean, he didn't extend. They wanted to extend him last summer. He didn't extend because I think he was hoping that he could make All NBA and be Supermax eligible. Well, that obviously didn't happen. So we'll see. I mean, they do need to extend him. He is an important player for them. So
Or trade him.
But
I was going to say,
but this is the stress max. This is a classic case of the stress max.
He's not a max player.
That's the whole problem.
This is one of the reasons why it's stressful, because a guy who's a 25% max player isn't always a 30% max player, 30% of the cap max player 5 years later. And very rarely do you see contracts negotiated that are, where a guy's, gets 90% of the max. Most of the time, if they're close, they get it. Especially if you're worried about being a small market like they are. And, he's headed for a classic stress max zone. And with the rules and the fact that the Pelicans have never paid the tax ever, and that they owe Zion this money, and, Trey Murphy is lined up to get an extension this summer.
And they owe CJ this money. I mean, that extension is not looking great.
And so they can't just, it's hard to just give it to them. So it's a classic stress max situation.
And by the way, real quick, because it's sort of been forgotten, the egg on Sunday, obviously, is they're paying the price for it now, right? If they show up and get that one on Sunday, and Zion plays the way he did today, and they win that game, obviously not playing this game, right? And like that, if they end up losing Friday and they fall out of the playoffs after coming close to winning 50 games and everything we talked about, Zion actually having a healthy season, all that stuff, man, that is going to be one long summer in New Orleans.
I do want to mention D'Angelo Russell, and I do mean great for his standards. And he had an excellent performance in this one on the road under pressure on a night when LeBron was worn down, and where AD had an impactful game, but was not great. He was 6 of 16. He had that back injury on the foul from Larry Nance the other night. He was questionable coming in. Obviously, he was going to play. It was a play-in game.
Does remain incredible. His shot is just gone. And I voted him third team All NBA. He's had a great year, but anytime he takes a jumper, I always expect him to miss at this point. And he didn't used to be a decent, even mid-range jump shooter. It's just totally abandoned him at this point.
He was on my All NBA team and my All Defensive team as well. He did have 15 rebounds, and he had a huge offensive rebound. On a very weak LeBron miss late, and he got fouled on the play, and then he stepped up and made both free throws.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Lakers have to be, they're going to be significant underdogs to Denver. I don't know if ESPN bet put it out there.
Not at our employer, I'm sure. Not at our employer.
Well, I got into it with Shannon Sharp and Stephen A today about.
Oh, I saw. I saw
the
that.
Lakers. I mean,
You're going to regret those words.
yeah, I mean, he said that the Thunder were the weakest number one. I don't know what he said. The
Yes,
weakest number one seed.
yes, I'm just playing. I know.
Yeah, I mean, that was a layup. I mean, even if the Thunder get upset, I'm not. You know, they are not a weak number one seed.
Tomorrow you'll get to hear the case for how the Lakers are today. You'll get to hear the case for how the Lakers are going to win and shock the world against Denver. So there you go.
Well, he also
or win
said
an A game.
he also said that the Nuggets lost the game to the Spurs last Friday on purpose.
Oh yeah, certainly. That's why Joker and Jamal Murray played a ton of minutes in that game. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
well,
total
whatever.
sense.
Anyway,
listen, they got in though. They did get in. And look, I will say this. If you are the Lakers, to me, I mean, set aside all this nonsense about you should tank out or whatever. I do think the best chance for the Lakers to beat Denver, if they're going to, I don't think they're going to win the series, to be clear. But you saw how tired LeBron looked today.
Absolutely.
Their best chance to beat the best team is if they can summon it right now and play them. And LeBron has the energy to get through it. Now, again, I'm picking Denver to win the series. I don't think it's going to be that competitive.
In how many games?
I want to say 4, but I'll probably say 5 because Denver will probably give one away in LA. But I do think if you're the Lakers and you're going to have to play them at some point, I'd rather play them now than in 6 weeks because I don't think they'll have the energy to beat them in 6 weeks.
The other thing is the number one thing with the Lakers is the health of AD and LeBron. Yeah. And the first round, you're going to have more rest in there.
Yeah, it's the longest one. Conference finals every other day.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they got a great shot. Like it's going to be uphill. It's going to be a super uphill battle. But you know, I like their position in the first round better than I like it in the conference finals. And my point is, if you're the Lakers and you're trying to win the whole thing, you know, this is not the Magic. This is not the Cavs trying to win a playoff series for the first time in a decade plus.
Oh, that's not enough for the Cavs, Dom.
Oh, the Cavs trying to win a playoff series the first time in a decade plus. We're just
without
LeBron erasure.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, without LeBron. I've said it so many times.
Certain guy might have had something to do with some. I know.
I've said it so many times that it falls in my head. But they haven't won a series without LeBron since the '90s. So their reality and what they're achieving is different from the Lakers, you know? So, and the same with Orlando. Orlando hasn't won a playoff series since Dwight Howard. So that's not the same. So the Lakers, if they're going to do anything, they got to beat Denver, whether you survive for a month longer or not. I know that makes you feel better and it may make for higher ratings in the interim, but it doesn't really change the reality.
Yeah, it
helps our 401k, but that's about it.
Well, listen, it goes back to the discussion we had the other day. The idea that it's better to win a round, the goal is to win the whole thing. That's the goal. The goal isn't to win a round and then, hey, we have a parade because we won a round. That's not the point.
Yeah. There are places where they might. Let's be honest.
I'm not saying you shouldn't celebrate winning a round in the playoffs.
If Minnesota wins a round, I mean, they had a play-in title parade. They might have a first round party.
Yes,
but Minnesota. The Lakers left Minnesota a long, long time ago.
Yes,
talking about the Lakers here.
Yes, playoff series victories should be celebrated because they are hard to do. I'm not saying that, but it's also not the end goal here. And setting your whole season up to then win a playoff series, certainly not what LeBron's trying to do approaching his 40th birthday. He's not worried about winning a first round series.
If the Wolves have a first round victory party, do A-Rod and his old pal do they have to pick up 36% of the check?
They have to pick up 36% of the check, but they have to watch it from the stands. They're not going to be allowed to take part in it.
They'll have it in their fancy room, but they're not allowed in anymore.
Yeah. Các
bạn vừa xem xong video phân tích của chúng